V, you ready for this?
Oh, there we are. Now I can. Hi. Yes, apparently I am.
Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen! Today is September 30th, 2020. It is season 4, episode 35. I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Bianca.
Hey V, how's it going?
Hi. I'm in a mood today.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How was your week? What's been going on?
It's been a long week.
Yeah?
It's been a long week. I'm happy I'm here.
Yeah.
And I cannot promise a long fuse.
Oh, all right. Well, that said, we don't have a whole lot of callers yet right now. People have been coming in once the show has started. Mm-hmm. But if you call in early, we have time to actually shuffle things around and know what the show is going to look like. So if you want to call in, if you're a religious caller, now's the time. Call 512-991-9242. Or if you want to call toll-free internationally, it's tiny.cc/callth. Before we go into the calls, we've got our regular announcements. Talk Heathen is a product of the Atheist community of Austin. The ACA is a 501c3 nonprofit. Neither V nor myself draw a wage. None of the crew draws a wage. Everything that is fundraised by the ACA goes directly to the nonprofit, and we love it. We really appreciate it that way. If you like what we do and you want to support the ACA and its mission of promoting compassionate atheism and the separation of religion and government, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen to me. 2/3 of the way through the episode, we thank our top 5 patrons.
Nice.
I'm on it today. I actually have the Patreon page up on the screen, and I am going to be double checking right before I thank people 2/3 of the way through the episode. So if you're watching live and you want to hear your name read out, go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me and become one of our top 5 patrons. I will tell you, it has been a 5-way tie at the $25 level for the last couple of weeks. So that's what it would need to be if you wanted to have your name read out on the air.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yep.
We don't have merch currently.
No, we don't.
We are getting ready for a new store and a new logo and a whole bunch of awesome stuff on our end. So we've been warning you for a while that the old merch is going away, and it went away. So
yep.
To all y'all who have OG Talk Heathen merch, hang on to it. It's going to be worth a lot in a year or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. We've been ringing that bell for a while, and it is time to move on, I think.
Yeah.
Most likely, probably.
Within a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think with all of that, you had a long week. I know that I started my new job. I haven't been putting out any episodes all week on my personal channel because I've been working a full-time job.
Yeah.
So it's been intense.
Yeah, it's been an intense week. I moved last weekend. So this last week I couldn't get internet for the first 5 days because... But finally got that on Wednesday, and that was the day I went back to work. So then I had a rushed work week of 3 days, getting everything set up for tomorrow. So yeah, just happy to be in a place where I'm not managing things right now.
Good. Well, we're gonna have a relaxing day later. It'll be good. That said, are you ready to dive into calls?
I am. Let's do this.
Cool. There's somebody who wants to call and talk to you specifically.
Awesome.
Let's talk to Patricia in New Mexico. Patricia, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Hi. So I wanted to talk to V about their experience with witchcraft.
Sure.
I'm an atheist myself. I have a friend who's also an atheist, but she's very into witchcraft as well, and I never really understood it. But recently I kind of came to an epiphany of sorts, I guess, that as an ex-Christian, I know a lot of prayer is very much centered around, letting go of your troubles and giving them to God and letting Him take care of it. And then from my very limited outside perspective, what I see in a lot of witchcraft stuff is very centered around intentions and like actively putting your intentions into things. So I was wondering if that was part of why you practice your secular witchcraft, or if I'm totally off base.
No, and I think one of the fun things about this particular set of cultural and religious and spiritual practices is that you can't. It's really hard to be off base. Like there's not one agreed upon doctrine or dogma here. So if that is why you like practicing witchcraft and that is what you find beneficial in it, that's totally valid. That is how you should do it. For me, it does touch on that, certainly. The idea of having agency in my own life, the idea of respecting my own autonomy and the autonomy of other people is very important. And that can get a little bit dodgy too when people believe that they can like manipulate other people using ritual and stuff. Then that, gets back into the whole maybe not so great territory. But for me, most of it is I enjoy playing with my brain. I enjoy hijacking it, making it feel things and do things. And ritual, I found for me, is a very useful way to do that in a very quick way. So, for example, if I'm feeling anxious during the day or got a lot on my mind or want to change my mood, I know that doing certain things in certain ways, whether that's chanting something, whether that's lighting a candle, whether that's, smudging a room or, whatever thing that ritual is, that is going to hack my brain and allow me to feel better or shift my mood or look at things with a new perspective. That's also why I like tarot cards. So yeah, I think a lot of it is the idea of being active in your own life and jumping in and being like, hey, I'm going to make adjustments to my surroundings, to my daily routine, to my mindset in order to achieve an end goal, as opposed to, lobbing it off at some, omnipotent deity. But at the same time, it is, and I want to stress this, fully, for me, non-supernatural. So there is no magical component apart from the fact that we get to do crazy, awesome things to our brains. So...
Okay, so it's more about just that you found that things that are associated with witchcraft are beneficial to you, not that you, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't worship anything. There's no, again, like supernatural component to it. I do also love historical witchcraft, right? I'll do the practical side of things, which is, do a ritual for myself. But the thing I'm most passionate about is learning about the history of it and kind of that entire subculture that spans the globe and is still going on to this day, and just tracing that back and understanding how it intersects with the history that I was taught in school. So there's a lot of history there and a lot of culture and a lot of story that a lot of people don't know about. So I would suggest, if you're interested in maybe looking at this more, taking a look at some books like Drawing Down the Moon by Margaret Adler, Religion and the Decline of Magic by Keith Thomas, and I think it's called Witches in America by Alex Marr. Those are kind of my 3 books that I give to people to check out. And it does look at witchcraft as a religion, as a societal shift, as a cultural phenomenon, as in every different capacity and facet. So pick which one you like to look at and go for it.
Yeah, if
I will definitely check those out. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to toss in just a little bit extra because I know that people, whenever this comes up, they immediately think, wow, V's really woo, even though that is exactly not what V said. And I think the best way that I can kind of summarize that or give an analogy for that is, we can all think of Becky, who goes and gets her pumpkin spice latte and goes down to the yoga studio where everybody says namaste and they do yoga. And, it's this use of something that a lot of people take very spiritually, but that doesn't mean that there's not use to it.
Exactly.
You know?
I do like to draw the comparison to yoga a lot because there are people who use it as a spiritual practice. That is how it originated. But there are also people who have taken the parts that physically and mentally make sense for them and help them feel better and just do it as a practice. So witchcraft can be a religion. It can be a component of Wicca, of certain pagan religions, but it can also be a secular toolkit to use if you're interested in that particular culture and aspect and all of that. So certainly not pigeonholing you into one thing. I'd say explore it a little bit. Keep an open mind and make sure that you're never taking anything without questioning it and doing research. But yeah, I'd say this is an exciting thing to hear. Go for it.
Yeah, I thought it sounded really cool, and she's my friend who's really into it is not, I don't think, believes that any of the supernatural aspects are real. She likes doing tarot, kind of the same thing that you do, just to sort of see what's going on in her brain, and she'll do it with me sometimes, and we'll make fun of it the whole time, but it's still interesting to, it gives, like you said, it gives you a different way of looking at things and can help you evaluate things in a way you might not have before.
Totally. I look at it like play. Like, we don't get a lot of opportunities to play as adults, right? But this is the way I play, and it's fun, and it always smells so good. Like, there's so many good smells, and it's pretty, and it's creepy, and I don't know. I enjoy it.
You know, that's kind of one thing that really interested me when I first dove into it. In talking to you about it, is I had such a revolt, you know, just gut punch reaction of, why are you into something that is ritual? That there's the ritual component here that is incredibly triggering.
Yes.
Turns
it's not
out
for everybody.
But here's the thing: it turns out that not all atheists are triggered by ritual the same way that I am, and the same way that a lot of other people are. You know, for a lot of people, you get that cringe, but a lot of people took comfort in the ritual of it.
Right.
And I definitely see that being something that I've seen in your life is taking comfort in a ritual. You know, and
we all have rituals, right? I'm just very intentional about what that looks like. But yeah, if you get up and you make coffee in the morning, every morning, like, that is your ritual. If you watch an episode of Star Trek before going to bed every night, like, that's a ritual. So we revolve around creating patterns and rituals in our lives. That's how we feel grounded a lot of the time. And for me, witchcraft is a way to do that very intentionally in a very controlled environment when I need it in the moment.
Cheers.
But yeah, Patricia, thank you so much for calling in. That was a great question.
Definitely. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
All right. You ready? Let's move on. Let's
Sounds good.
talk to, how about Logan in California?
Sounds good. Hi, Logan.
Hey, Logan. You're live with Eric and V.
Hello.
Hey, what would you like to talk about?
I have a question.
Sure, what's up?
Why do Christians think Jesus is perfect and going to send atheists and non-Christians to hell?
I'm not a Christian anymore, so I think that I would be I'd be strawmanning the Christian position if I did that.
Well, I can tell you what I thought when I was a Christian and like how I rationalized it. I can thankfully tap into that part of my brain still. For me, when I was trying to explain this to myself, the line is, you send yourself there, right? The line is, oh, God doesn't send you to hell. He doesn't want you to go there. And Jesus was the way that he was trying to save you from it. But because you have free will, you can equally choose to go to heaven or to hell. And if you go to hell, that's your own fault. You chose it. And it was only after kind of looking at that very much in depth and picking it apart and not stopping at the comfortable answer and pushing beyond that I started realizing, wait, this implies that either we are more powerful than God is because we are able to send ourselves somewhere where God does not want us to go, or God is confined by a rule book of some kind that respects free will above all else, and there are only two options, heaven or hell, and in which case how on earth could God claim to be the victor at the end of the world during Revelation if half the people, or more than half the people, most of the people that he created and didn't want to be in hell, were in hell? How on earth is that considered a victory? So there are very many ways to pick that apart if you look at it a little bit more closely than people want you to. But for me, that was definitely the answer that I would have given you as a Christian.
Yeah. Yeah, and it can vary. So don't take this as the one and only, as a rule, ask the person that you're talking to. They will tell you what they believe, and then meeting them where they are ensures that you're having a conversation with them and not at them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, hopefully that helps. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about?
Just kind of, one more. Just like I left the religion because I was sick of the idea of having to worry about what you get next. It's like devalue the life to be at quest level. I'm just sick of that, and there's just so many rules of what you can and can't do. It just made me so nervous and just sick of it, so I left.
Absolutely. If you want to share your story, there's some really great places to do that. Our Discord is one of them. If you haven't been to our Discord, let's see if we can pop the Discord link underneath us in the lower third. tiny.cc/ACA Discord is a great place to meet and talk to people and have those conversations. I know that the call-in format isn't one where we open up the floor specifically, for that all the time. But I think that for a lot of people who are watching, sharing those things is very cathartic. You should check out our Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All righty, man.
Awesome. Thanks for calling in, Logan.
Take it easy.
Okay, see you later.
See ya. So we've got 2 callers on the line. Mm-hmm. If you want to call in, what the hell? Especially because I've gotten multiple messages from theists this week saying,
Same.
well, I want to talk to you about this and that. And it's like, call the show. Where are you at, bro?
Yeah.
Trolls in the comments.
Come on. Now's your chance.
Now's your chance to call in. 512-991-9242. Or if you want to go online, toll free, tiny.cc/callth. All right, let's move on to Deutschland. Elli, or is it Eli? I think it's Elli in Germany. Wie geht's?
Guten Tag, mir geht's gut und euch?
Good. So, what would you like to talk about today?
Hi, I'm calling in because I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot lately about stuff like that, and I was raised very Roman Catholic, which I know is pretty tame compared to some of the American varieties of Christianity. Mm-hmm. But there is still a lot of stuff like, I am definitely not a Christian, and I don't really consider myself a theist. Mm-hmm. I'm still kind of figuring out all of that stuff. I think I'm leaning towards atheist. It's still kind of in the making. I don't know how to reconcile atheism and still some sort of spirituality. I don't know. Not really what I was calling about. When you're raised in a pretty strict Christian household, comparatively, there's a lot of small behaviors that you got drilled into your head. And what I was wondering about is how do I deal with that? I still struggle. The 10 Commandments were really pushed, but for example, do not lie. The only thing I learned from that is to lie better.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of tiny subtle things like that where I still catch myself. For example, lying. I lie about the silliest stuff where it's totally not necessary. Do you guys have a tip on how to let go of that bullshit? Excuse me for my language.
Oh,
you can say whatever
here.
The fuck you want on this show.
And yes, it is bullshit. So we agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't know. How about you, Eric?
Well, I mean, it's a couple of things, and this is just kind of one flavor of the same issue, and there's a lot of intersection here, and a lot of people are going to roll their eyes when I mentioned that, you know, we live in a system that is based on, you know, needing to be subservient to one thing, you know, or another. So a lot of times it's, you know, respect your elders. Okay, well, what if my elders are absolute bigots? Well, for a lot of us, especially here in the States, it's shut your mouth, let them be a bigot, and then just roll your eyes when they walk away. And I mean, we had a caller last week who called in who said that they really wanted to have a conversation. Their dad really wanted to go over talking with them and studying the Bible, but he wasn't allowed to say anything back. He just needed to let his dad talk at him. Because his dad was sharing and being very, very giving and providing if he was talking about his beliefs. But if, you know, the atheist responds, then it's just persecution and rudeness.
Right.
And, you know, having those things drilled into you it's so much more than just religion. And it's interesting because you walk this line. You don't want to be disrespectful in a, like, I'm not an asshole way, because you don't want to be an asshole, but at the same time, we as a society create these structures that make absolutely zero sense and that enable and create hiding spots for bigotry. And so you see that specifically in religion. You know, you see that in a lot of religious places where people will go, you know, hey, I'm, you know, gay people make me feel yucky, so I'm going to find verses that say that being gay is bad, so I can have a place to couch my bigotry. Or maybe there's someone who is an absolute misogynist. You know, there are lots of places in the Bible that you can find misogyny and go, well, obviously, you know, the man needs to be the one in charge. And so, you know, as far as advice goes, I think one of the things that helps me is recognizing that this is not unique, and that there have been places where I've been able to peek through that and break through in other areas. So it means that I'm not just helpless the entire time, right? I'm not completely unable to shed some of that. And so I have the power, I have the ability, and I recognize that it's not different than the others. And while that doesn't always make it easier, it definitely creates a stronger, more stable ground just to be on from there.
That's really helping me. I'm sorry, I'm kind of tearing up a little.
No,
It's okay.
It's just really a struggle. Like, you were talking about homophobia and stuff. Like, I am mainly interested in women, and that is a thing I have come across.
Yeah.
Also from, like, my community where I grew up. And I just, at the same time, like, with my brain, with my Homo sapiens brain, I can see that that's bullshit. They're just, like, using their own anxieties and stuff and projecting them onto their religion and using that to give reason to why they're, like, disliking whatever thing. Like, I'm not, like, whipping out my nudes or whatever and shoving them in people's faces.
Right.
And but still, it's a lot of the time it's just, you feel so powerless, honestly. You just, like, revert back into what you were taught because you've been doing it so long, and it becomes so natural almost.
Yeah. It's a physical thing too. And I brought this up on the show before, but it bears repeating. There are things that happen to your brain when you are indoctrinated, especially from a young age. If you were born into a religious household that held very strictly to certain religious guidelines or rules or thought patterns, that actually physically changes your brain and makes it so that those neural pathways are lubricated more, so they become habitual. The thoughts, the actions become habitual. It's a physical thing. And the good news is that that's reversible, and it takes a while. So as you're working through this is not something that you just aren't doing correctly. This is a process that takes a long time to actually complete. But you can rewire your own brain by stopping those thoughts and thinking about them and being, oh, I don't care about this anymore. I'm going to rewire this to move in this direction instead. So instead of saying, oh, I know for me, I had a lot of internalized homophobia when I first started, interacting with some friends who weren't straight back in undergrad, and I was very concerned about it. And my first thought was, ick, And then as I started looking at that, I realized this is not congruent with who I am as a person. This has no bearing on how I feel about this individual. I actually really like this person. So why do I go into ick territory all the time? That must not be instinctual. That must be something else. And so I actually made a point to, for lack of a better term, take that thought captive and move it into a new pattern. And it took a long time, but it worked because I'm gay now.
Because that's how that works.
That's how it works.
Finally.
No, but I did want to just make sure that we address that as well. This isn't something you're behind on. This isn't something that you just need to get over or have that force of will, because this is a physical thing that happened to your brain, and you are taking the steps to rewire it, which is so important. But it is going to take time, and you should be patient with yourself while that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It would be so nice if it was easier to be patient with yourself.
Right? That would solve a lot of my problems.
I totally agree with you. Like, I'm actually going to therapy, and I'm super glad that I don't have to pay out of pocket for that. And it's not just because of that. There's like a lot of overlap, and I'm sure you know that a lot of people who have the tendency to for a lack of a better word, dominate other people, they often use religious frameworks to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that obviously that also plays into the whole thing. But I really do agree with you that it's a really visceral reaction sometimes when you get confronted with something that you've kind of been traumatized by for.
Yeah.
And the worst part for me is that they prey on that feeling of being traumatized by a thing, by a flashback, by a trigger, and they say, oh, you see, that's proof that we're right, and that's the spirit convicting you, or that's American Christianese for we're right, you're wrong. But it's not, it has no bearing on the truth of the claim, how you feel about it. The only thing that proves is that you were subjected to something that you viscerally are reacting to in a negative way. And that alone should make it important for you to take stock and stop and say, hey, why am I feeling this visceral reaction? And is this right for me? Is this healthy? Are things that I like making me feel this way? Or is it just this environment? Is it just these people? Is it just this message that's making me feel so awful?
That's the reason why I actually at this point entirely avoid organized religion as much as I can. Like earlier you were talking about rituals and stuff, and I'm more on Eric's side here. Like the ritualistic part of it kind of triggers me.
And that's totally okay.
Yeah.
Especially, I found that is actually very, very predominant among former Catholics specifically. I think there's a lot more of that ritual tied in inherently to the doctrine.
There's so much. You're standing, you're kneeling, you're standing, you're kneeling.
So I
doing
totally
Hail Marys.
understand that. I think for me, because my upbringing was so non-ritualistic in terms of, we were, evangelical, non-denominational, which meant anything goes. So for me, it was a little bit more, I'm discovering ritual for the first time and it's helpful. But I totally understand that if you came from a religion where ritual was very heavily in an aspect of that you might shy away from that. And that's absolutely fine too. It's certainly a personal preference at that point.
Actually, to tie into that, I think it's really important simply because there are so many people who will have talked about the ACA or gone to the ACA and gone, that's just an atheist church. and you ask them, what do you mean by atheist church? Well, it's a bunch of atheists congregating together talking about what they believe. It's like, okay, so does that mean that Magic the Gathering is also a church? That stamp collecting is also a church? Video games, board games are also a church? The thing is there are so many people who are raised with this idea that when people gather together and create a community, that somehow that idea is owned by religion, and that atheists are now being religious by getting together and enjoying each other's company and creating a positive community. And I think that's absolute bullshit. But how do you tell that to somebody who really has that connection, right? If somebody's been raised in that, then it is triggering. They see all these people and they go, well, I'm just going back into what I had before.
It's just good branding. It's like why we call all bandages Band-Aids. All Band-Aids are not like, that's not what the thing is, but because it's so culturally like, that is the brand name. So it automatically, everything is that.
Yeah.
It's just the church got there to the point where they're like, we're claiming this human thing that all humans have and want, whether that's ritual, whether that's community, whether that's feeling at peace with yourself or at one with the rest of the world, like whatever that is, they're like, oh, that's ours now. Yeah.
And Ellie, being somebody who's on your side about this, here's how I categorize it. There are a lot of people who find those things together in places that I don't necessarily agree with, but I see them being beneficial, right? So I see lots of pseudo-spiritual people gathering for things like, for whatever reasons, right? What was that group that suns their buttholes? Because they thought that
Perineum sunning?
Perineum sunning. Yeah, if you haven't, that is ridiculous. But there you have a group who does this, and it's the more. I'm sorry?
It sounds hilarious.
Yeah, don't do it. You'll sunburn your butt. Don't do it.
Thanos says no. Thanos, the actor who played Thanos, tried it and got a very sunburned butthole.
Yeah.
A fun piece of trivia I don't think he wants the world to know about.
My roommate Holy Cooley did a whole video on it. It was great. But I had a whole other thing and it just fell right out of my head that I was going to lead into about
He thought about Josh Brolin's butthole and then everything.
Normally.
Yeah,
normally.
that's how it works.
Anyway, Ellie, Dankeschön. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, it was so nice to talk with you.
Vielen Dank. I might call some other time. Thank you for being so nice to me. I was actually really anxious.
We're not that mean.
No, we're good. We're good.
We'd love to hear back. If you go through this process some more and you come up against a question or a concern, we're here. We want to hear more.
All right.
Thank you so much. Have a nice afternoon, I think.
Cheers. All right. Good. We've got more calls coming in. I see one theist who's currently being screened. If you're a religious caller, now's two theists.
Yay.
Call in. We want to talk to you.
All right.
In the meantime, let's talk to Bridget in Texas. Bridget, you're live with Eric and V.
Hi. How are y'all?
Hey, doing well. Yeah. What do you want to talk about today?
Well, I've been struggling a lot with playing along kind of with my parents' theism. They're Catholic, but they were always like, my dad was a marine biology major and stuff like that. It was always a very science-forward house. But ever since my brother came down with a type of brain cancer that's probably definitely terminal, my mom has been like clinging to religion in a way that she never has before, and now it's kind of it's in my space in a way that hasn't been before. Like before, I never like said I was atheist because it didn't seem to matter, but now she kind of needs this. So, and it's sometimes very distressing. Like an amazing person who was a gaming friend of my brother's heard him have a seizure on like while they were playing video games together, and without like any information about him, tracked him down and sent the police to like do a wellness check, and that saved his life.
Oh, wow.
Miracle instead of someone being amazing.
Yeah.
And just thing after thing like that.
Yeah, it really, my little brother saved someone's life by the person, he was at his camp and someone had almost drowned, and he did CPR on this other person and saved this guy's life. And the only thing people talked about were how God had done it, including my brother. And I'm just like, but what? Why? It's really frustrating to see people reach for things that aren't actually going to help them. And I fully empathize with that.
Yeah, and like I walked away from that being like, this is like the connectivity of the internet and how people form these bonds. And like, it was right around the same time when there was like free internet was under attack and stuff. And I was like, no, we shouldn't be talking about God. We should be like talking about how we need to protect this resource that saved his life. Things like that. And it just feels so like there's a direction we should be looking in.
Right.
Say like, thank you and work. But also I just kind of have to keep my mouth shut because my mom really needs this. And it's just like, I'm not going to do that to her right now.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those picking your battles types of things. The really horrible thing, in my opinion, is that often religion preys on desperation.
Yeah.
And when someone is feeling desperate and powerless, being told you can have these supernatural powers by reaching out to some interventionary deity, I think it's very similar to walking through an impoverished area and telling people, I'm going to give you $1 million tomorrow. It's a hollow promise, but it makes people feel good in the moment.
Yeah.
And it hurts and it's difficult. So I absolutely feel for you. This is a really shitty time. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this.
My one thought here would be maybe right now you don't need to be the person, fact checking your mom's faith, but you could be the person also encouraging her to go to therapy. You could be the person also encouraging her to take active steps towards taking care of herself, taking care of your brother, taking care of the family. So it is a picking your battles type of thing. You cannot decide what someone else does or doesn't believe, unfortunately. And to come up against that, especially in your own family, when you see how it's like hurting them, is heart-wrenching. I have a saying, talking with theists you don't know is annoying. Talking with theists you do know is heartbreaking. And it's a huge emotional battle that you are fighting inside of yourself right now. And I've been there. I am there right now. The most you can do right now is make sure that you are an outside voice that is breaking that bubble whenever you can. She is going to start having people build that bubble for her. She is going to find a church. She's going to find a prayer group, a Bible study, and those voices are just going to start trying to cover her in that. And if you are there as somebody she can trust, as somebody that she loves, to be a voice of reason, even if that's just, hey mom, did you go to therapy this week? Hey mom, did you eat today? Hey mom, here's an article about a new scientific breakthrough that could help people like our brother, our son in the future. Just being somebody who is outside of that bubble, who is not letting go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, I just want to jump in and say that we have a comment in the live chat that is really relevant. Someone says that as a former Mormon missionary, they were actually taught to look out for people having trauma in their lives. It really is so.
It's predatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
everything went down.
Yeah, I think it's very heartening that you're recognizing that, this is your mom clinging to something. This isn't your mom trying to be malicious to you or anybody else, as much as it is seeing that she is trying to use this as a coping device.
Yeah.
That is a big step, because I've seen a lot of people not be able to recognize that. Recognizing that humanity in the other person, and what that struggle is for them. It says a lot about you, Bridget.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
I just want to say one unrelated thing really fast.
Yeah, what's up?
My partner recently came out to me as non-binary, and it was like, and watching V has been very informative in like non-gender, like conforming gender identities. And so, yeah, thanks for being on air.
Thank you so much. That made my heart happy.
Aww.
Thank you. And hey, if you or your partner ever want to call secular sexuality about that topic, I'm also on that show on Thursday nights at 7. And I'd be happy to talk with you guys again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Y'all have an awesome day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye. That was sweet.
That was really sweet.
Aw.
See, that's why I'm so annoying about gender, you guys.
Because it helps
like
people.
that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. For Bridget.
Absolutely. All right. Let's move on and talk to, well, before we move on and talk to Jay in Virginia, Jay, we're going to get to you in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
We want this show to be a full show. You don't want to see us vamp.
You really don't want to see us vamp.
No. We're coming up on 2,000 viewers. If you're a religious viewer who has wanted to talk about what you believe, we just want you to have good reason.
Another option is just scroll through my Twitter if you're a theist and get mad at a tweet I've sent out in the last 2 weeks
Oh,
and call
no.
to confront me about it.
Yeah.
It's another option.
Call
I'm
in.
desperate here, okay?
Yeah, we've got 3 call screeners waiting on the line. So
Yep.
512-991-9242, or you can go to tiny.cc/callth. Let's move on. Let's talk to Jay in Virginia. Jay, you're live with Eric and V.
Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. What's up? What would you like to talk about?
I've been an atheist for about 2 years now. And despite that, I still find myself believing that consciousness has a supernatural component.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't something that I want to believe. I really can't choose my beliefs, but every time I'm presented with a specific thought experiment, I can't help come down on that side of it.
Well, can I walk you through a couple and see if maybe we can flesh that out a bit?
Sure.
Okay. So are you conscious right now?
Yes.
Are you conscious when you're sleeping?
To some degree, yes.
Okay. Are animals conscious?
I'm not sure, but I
Okay.
think that some are and some are probably not.
So what is your definition of consciousness? I'm trying to kind of start to plug in there. What makes something conscious to you?
For me, I guess something conscious. That's a really good question. I think it's just I think there's more to it than just awareness of self.
Oh, sure. I've met plenty of, in working in special ed, I've taken care of plenty of children who are not aware of themselves and yet still conscious.
Right. And I've actually worked with special ed as well, and I would agree with that. And I think you could probably program some robots to be aware of themselves, but I wouldn't say that those would be conscious.
Measure of a man.
So let's see here. Let me give you my definition.
I'm sure.
And let's see if we can go from there, yeah?
Okay.
So your consciousness is often used interchangeably when you're talking about the mind. And that is an emergent property of having a brain. So it's not actually something that, there was never an intent towards it, but it is evolutionarily advantageous to be able to communicate, to be able to be social species. Excuse me, we see that in other animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these different places of growth have given us the brains that we have. And, you can see similarly, in other social species, in dogs and dolphins and monkeys, those kinds of things, and in elephants, right? So consciousness is kind of this strange, emergent thing that happens. So at least we can start to narrow it down, right? I've never seen something without a brain conscious. I've never seen a rock conscious. And by my understanding,
right,
those emergent properties of having a, central nervous system and a brain, the working brain, I've not experienced or seen or any kind of consciousness outside of that. And so I'm left to conclude that consciousness is an entirely material thing. You know, oh, go ahead.
And I can follow your logic there. And I mean, it makes perfect sense to me why there's someone named Jay who believes the things he does in Virginia, who might even be calling the show. But for me, the stumbling block is the idea that I'm physically, you know, behind the wheel here, trapped in this person, and why there should be someone. And I know logically it doesn't make any sense at all. I know my position doesn't make any sense at all. Can I explain what is giving me so much trouble?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
If possible. Okay. I assume both of you are at least passively familiar with Star Trek.
More than passively.
V has been inducting me into Star Trek. I never watched Star Trek beforehand, and now I'm on season 3 of Voyager.
Yep. So yes,
okay.
You're in good company.
Oh. In Star Trek, there's technology called a transporter, where people are on a ship, they beam the person down onto the planet and can beam people from the planet back up onto the ship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, physically move them from one space to another. When the very first series had people like this, there were people saying that, well, that's just a suicide pod, that anyone who steps on the pad is actually being, you know, their molecules are being ripped apart, they're being killed, and then just a clone is being made on the planet below.
Uh-huh.
But
yeah. Isn't that amazing?
But even if it just exists as a thought experiment, the idea that everything that makes you, you know, all of your material, every atom where it is, every bit of energy that makes you where you are, if all of that were just taken from the ship and just reconstructed down on a planet, would you be willing to step onto that teleporter? Because for me, there's at least a small part that can't help but think that the moment I step on there, my existence ends, and then, you know, there's a duplicate existence who knows everything I know, thinks everything I used to think, remembers everything I remember, but it's not me piloting that.
Well,
I love that you brought this up, because this is like, of all of the different like philosophical like little questions that poke at you with Star Trek, like this is the one that Eric has latched onto. Like the transporter is like, you were like, yes, this is my thing now.
Absolutely. So I speak for myself in this.
I speak for the trees.
So this is only going to take you so far, but I'd love to give you my view on it. My view on it is this. Yeah, you stop existing. But it's not like you're ever going to know that you stopped existing, because you stopped existing. The fact is, effectively, you transported. That consciousness is there. It's kind of this amazing... So, you know, it's interesting. I think that if I lived in a world where the technology existed, if I was having a really bad day, I would just go transport myself to the other room. Because what an amazing way to take care of your existential dread than to go, no, that person was just obliterated. But this one, maybe I can give this one a chance, you know. but even if we took it outside of the transporter problem, I mean, we're still looking at the ship of Theseus. Yeah, right.
It is essentially the same thing.
Yeah. And so for people who are watching who haven't heard of the ship of Theseus, I'll just go through it really quickly. It's this idea that, you know, Theseus has a ship, and it's been hundreds and hundreds of years since. And
they love this ship, so they preserve it.
Yes.
And every time a plank starts rotting out, they replace it with a new plank. Every nail, every sail, every sheet, like everything, they slowly but surely make sure that everything is new and everything is maintained.
And so now we're looking at a ship of Theseus, and it's hundreds of years later, and it looks beautiful. It's sitting in the harbor, but somebody had actually kept all of the pieces that were replaced, all of the rotted pieces, and reassembled a ship of Theseus. Are they both the same ship? Is one more the ship of Theseus? The idea of identity is so weird. It's so interesting. The fact that, we're constantly losing cells and regenerating, the idea that you're not the same person that you were several years ago. I would say that it's not so much about your physical makeup, because that changes.
Okay.
I think that when you're talking about your identity, you're talking about the set of stories that you tell yourself about yourself. That is who you are. And that changes over time. Mm-hmm. But I think that if you want to get to the core of what makes you you, I think that's what it is. Is it wiggly? Is it? Yes, absolutely. But I've yet to come across something that has a more powerful, strong pull as that for me. And so when I imagine that I hopped into the teleporter, those stories, that person, that human, didn't stop existing for everybody else. I never found out that I stopped existing. And that consciousness continues to exist. So here's the real question, Jay. Who's to say that when you fell asleep last night, you didn't die and get replaced?
There's absolutely nothing to say that.
So
logically, there's no way we could ever know that.
No.
I've had surgery before I put out, and when I was out, it was just nothingness. I was out one moment, then all of a sudden I'm slowly waking up in the hospital, and that time is just gone.
So I would say actually the transporter problem and this whole question of are you you and what maintains yourself after you get reassembled kind of pushes us in the direction that it's not a supernatural thing. Because if your brain is constructed in a certain way and that's what makes you you, if you reconstruct that brain exactly, it's going to still be you because that's the function of that particular brain.
Yeah.
So it's not that something supernatural follows you along for the ride and re-inhabits your body once it's regenerated. What happens is it reconstructs your brain, and your brain is what makes you you. So of course you're going to be you because you just rebuilt your brain atom for atom.
It's this beautiful, nebulous, amazing thing.
It's such a fun question,
isn't it?
And I get it. It's weird, and it defies like all of the common sense concepts that we have about things. So of course there's going to be the predilection, especially in a culture where the supernatural is proposed as an option. That maybe this is supernatural. Maybe that's why I can't grasp it. Maybe that's why it's difficult to understand. But that's not necessarily the case. It's not a easy to understand, common sense, concrete thing or supernatural. That's a false dichotomy. It could be that it is a completely, and it looks like it is a completely physical, tangible, actual physical, real process that we just don't quite grasp yet.
Well, and it's easy enough. We can go back to the Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars fan, and I keep going to Star Wars. We're talking about Star Trek. I'm going to get murdered in the comments.
Please.
So if we go back to Star Trek, if your brain was put back together wrong, if you came back as Tuvix, you're a different person, right? It is that physical thing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, somebody mentioned Tuvix.
Yep. Yeah, he's already seen the episode with Tuvix. In fact, you saw Tuvix before you started watching Voyager. Like that was an episode that you saw with me before you started.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, hopefully that helps. It's the supernatural element of it. Boils down to is there something outside of the physical that is left for supernatural? No, not really. And the identity piece, yes, it has to do with your brain, but that doesn't mean that your brain couldn't be reassembled the exact same way, and that would be that identity.
Right.
And because of that, it just makes us a whole lot less special, doesn't it? That's all it is we're just not these unique, amazing snowflakes. That it's just, and that's okay. That's okay. So anyway, you, sir, thank you for calling in.
That was a good conversation.
We had some real deep cuts there. I don't know how many people we lost, but that was worth having. Jay, thank you for calling in, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
For sure.
I could talk about that for days.
I know it's.
And I do. The idea,
Yeah.
like some mornings I really would love to wake up and teleport.
It's like instead of a shower, just like transport yourself.
To the shower. Yeah, just from the bedroom to the shower, just so I can maybe give this Eric a shot. For some reason, part of that just feels amazing.
I don't know. I think I'd be even more existentially like depressed if it followed me to my next iteration.
But then you can tell yourself, like, that one's gone. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk to Randy in California. Randy, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Eric and V, how y'all doing, man? I'm big fans of y'all. Appreciate y'all letting me
Going in.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, not too long ago, long story short, my wife passed away. We were married for 3 years, and I grew up Christian. The whole thing was kind of been watching you guys for a while, and I'm so glad I was able to talk to you guys without getting too emotional, because talking about my wife passing. So it took me a couple months to be able to call you guys. You know what I mean?
Well, happy New Year.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I grew up in the church. Long story short, we met. I've known her since she was 6 years old. We grew up in the church. She was what you call a praise dancer. Her mom was, went to the school at the church. Her dad did praise music. I mean, the whole thing I was totally in. Went to the military, got out. And then she got married. Everything was fine. She ended up getting sick out the blue after my son was born. And about 8 months went back and forth going to the hospital, praying, and people at church praying. She would have good days when she was good, and we thank the Lord on those days. And the bad days, hey, they were just bad days, but God is working it out. So we went through this, and she goes into a coma. And we don't know if she's going to make it through the night. So this is for the whole church came together. We're talking about the pastor of the church I went to. He called people from all over the country of pastors that came to visit. We had thousands of people praying, and we were prophesied to. And all of a sudden she came out of her coma, but she started spotting on her limbs. And we were just happy she was alive. Her limbs start rotting off until she's going to lose her arms and her legs, basically. So this was a tough pill. So she's a dancer. So I had never been tested like this, to where, I mean, this is the real deal here. You know what I mean? And so I'm praying, and we've had people try to be realists with us. Hey, you guys need to just get this done and don't let it go any further. But we told them, no, we know God's going to heal her, everything. She ended up losing her legs and her arms and died in front of me the day of our 3-year anniversary.
Oh, Randy.
That was hard to process, and I had to see my wife, a shell of herself, just dead like that. And when people die and you hear people talk about them, oh, they were so special and this and that, and you kind of brush it off. But Stacy, she gave her whole life to God. She was a Princess Tiana at Disney, and at Disney you have a lot of people that are that don't have the same beliefs as you do, sexually or genderly or whatever. And she would politely stand her ground, and I don't believe in this because the Bible says so. But for the first time, I had questions, and I was past the point of ignoring those questions that I had. I wanted to find out now, because if my kids get sick and if there is something out there, I want to make sure I'm at least talking to the right motherfucker first. You know what I mean? I got to make sure I'm talking to the right person.
Yeah.
So I got turned on to your guys' show, and I started learning things about faith and the reason, about logic, about indoctrination. And these were a lot of things. And you said something, Eric, that I felt more than anything. You spoke a while ago about losing somebody. Correct me if I'm wrong. And you had to mourn twice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That because, I felt that. And that's what I tell people. So here's my situation leading up to that. Her parents still believe. Everybody still believes. And I can't do it anymore because I just know better. When I found out just, about the translations in Matthew, nobody knows who wrote those. And this is all comes your guys' show and doing research on my own. It took 1.5 years, and that's when I found that I was indoctrinated, because I couldn't even, I'm looking at the facts in front of me, but I still can't believe it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a problem. Right. So I'm finally out of that. I finally on my Facebook the other day put it on the post, like, I'm an atheist, let's argue. And the amount of people that just hit me up with it felt so relieving to be able to say that with my chest out. And now I have information I can present to you guys.
Yeah.
So I'm stuck with my kids. My daughter's 7 and my son is 4. Now, I'm away from it, and I've told some of the family, but they're head on with this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
her dad is to the point where if somebody cuts him off in traffic, well, they just, they just had a demon possessed in them or something. I'm like, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I gotta fucking relax, bro. So, they help out with the kids a lot.
Just really quick, just to, as an aside on that one, if you believe, in the enemy, the nemesis, the evil, how petty has the devil got to be like, and then we will send someone to cut them off in traffic.
Right.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
We had one conversation and he didn't, and our relationship has changed after this because I have a point where I talk back now. So he said, well, it was because of something at Disney and the spirit got her. And I said, let me tell you something. If she's the only one that believed in God and all these other people are doing the same thing and she's the one that only got sick and died, what does that say about your God? That only his children are getting fucked up? Like, what is that? That doesn't say too much about what you're not helping your case.
Yeah.
So now my kids are being watched by them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they got left of their daughter. And I understand this. So here's where I'm at. My daughter's coming now and she has questions. She's talking to me and she's like, Mommy's in heaven and it works and it works for her. But I want to kind of just be real with her and be like, hey, look, I don't know. Hey, like this is, you know what I mean? Like Mommy, that might be it for Mommy. But every time they're at the grandparents, they're just getting fed this more than ever because their grandparents are super scared now.
Yeah.
So how do I balance this? I'm looking at futures. I'm looking at later on, me and my daughter having problems. Because if I let it get too far, maybe 2 years from now, she starts arguing with me and that messes up our relationship. Because no, Grandma said Jesus is real. You're saying, so I don't know how to navigate this because I need their help, but I don't also want to put up something where it ruins our relationship. And like they go to church on Sundays. And if I have to work and they watch the kids on Sundays and I have nobody else to watch them,
right.
Yeah.
I tell you to leave the kids at home. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck to do. But I'm to the point now where when people come at me now and the old pastor I used to have, I have the boldness now to approach and ask hard questions now to people that usually you looked at an authoritative position and were afraid to. And when you start doing that, they get in circular arguments and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yep,
No,
that's true.
So hold on, you still get to talk to your old pastor? I'm jealous. Pastor Lance. Call me, bro.
Yeah.
Ever since I changed my number to have 666 as the prefix, they just stopped calling.
They just stopped. Nope.
So Randy, first off, there aren't words that either of us can express to, damn man, you're going through some really heavy shit.
Yeah.
You really are.
But every time I look at it, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm a 10-year veteran, and I've been to Iraq, and I've seen people lose their whole families, their country, and their home. So I do put things in perspective too. But nobody's pain is worse than anybody else's pain. I get that, but it's life. I'm dealing with it, man. And I appreciate it.
Well, I hopefully someday when COVID ends, I would love to give you a hug, my friend. If you're a hugger. That said,
I am now. I love everybody now. I'm a big hugger, man.
I love that.
So the interesting thing is neither of us have kids. But I can tell you the experiences that I've had here doing this show and talking to people, and especially finding out how wrong I was after the fact, that we can give you what little we do have. We had a caller call in once who was saying that, they did not want to cry in front of their child because their spouse had just passed away. And I didn't know. They're like, I'm trying to be strong for my kids, and so I have somebody watch them while I go into the car and I cry. And then afterwards, I'm reading the comments and I'm talking to people, and a lot of people were saying, hey, you know what? Crying in front of your kids can give them permission to know that it's okay to cry. Mm-hmm. And going, you know what? Daddy is sad too. And that's okay. We're going to get through this together. A lot of times, and as a father, I'm sure you know this. How many times has one of your kids fallen down and then look to you to see, okay, should I be crying right now? Should I be,
son. Yeah, it's like, is it okay? But if I give him permission, the walls come down and it's over after that.
Oh yeah. I saw a comic of a little kid getting hit by a meteor, and then somebody going, "Oh no," and the parent going, "No, just pretend like it's not."
He'll walk it off. It'll be cool.
Yeah, and the kid just shook it off because obviously it wasn't worth crying for because the parent wasn't worried.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So,
I think.
Really quick, just to tie that together, I think that being honest and open allows for a lot. I think that one place that could be a problem in the future is, I didn't know that Dad didn't believe. I've created this entire view of the world, and I didn't account for Dad. And then also, I think your specific situation. So I have not been through your experience, but I have been through traumatic experiences where I've needed to have really intense conversations with people who were very close to me. And I'll tell you what I did. I went to a therapist, and I practiced for over half a year. I practiced with my therapist. I talked about how afraid I was about it. I talked about how, what if they come back and I lose this relationship? What if? And I scripted it. And then my therapist would take the other side and we would practice it together until the day came that I was ready. Because what we had done is we'd created a plan with my personal specifics in mind, with the person I'm talking to in mind, and with the goal in mind. And I think that this is definitely something that you care about deeply and is worth that investment. Taking the time to work together with a therapist and go over all of those scenarios, I think can give you a lot that I know that we couldn't in a show give. But I can tell you that, the experience that I had there is one that I wish everybody got to have when it comes to having tough conversations. Just know that you should go to the therapist, and you should, work that, because you, sir, are deserving of a lot. You deserve to be respected as a human, and as a father, you deserve to be able to say, hey, here's how I want to raise my kids. And hey, I love you. I want to have this relationship. And here's what I'm seeing. And this does not feel comfortable. This is not okay with me. Let's work on finding a system that will be, because here's the thing is it might be that grandma and grandpa are either going to do things their way or not at all. And if it's not at all, that's their decision. And you were never going to have that choice, because you make that decision.
Grandma.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had a heart to heart where I kind of, because I feel a little bit closer to her. She's more open to talk to. She's not too into, she's into it, but I'm able to have decent conversations with her without the emotion getting involved, and we can sit down and have a conversation. So one thing I had explained to her, she said, I said, Mom, every time I talk to people, it's based off personal experience. And the best way I explained it to her was, if there's Superman out there, and I'm cutting my grass, you're telling me God is looking out for you, you're eating every day, you're still standing and this and that, so you have to believe that's cool. But that's equivalent to having Superman, and he helps me wash my dishes and cut my grass. I appreciate you, Superman, but these are things I can do for myself. When I need you is when that motherfucker in the alleyway.
Don't get me the good parking spot, right?
Yeah, right.
Go feed kids in
Africa. That's what I'm saying. So if Superman helps me cut my grass every day, that's cool. But then when I'm getting mugged, he doesn't show the fuck up. I'm sorry, Superman. We got a goddamn problem. You know what I'm saying? We need to talk about the fuck you risk. So I was telling her, just saying that you're still standing doesn't say much, because there's a lot of people still standing. There's killers out there that are still standing. They're doing financially better than us. So she was like, I can it's cool. I know that's your beliefs and all that. So I think it might be easier with her is just with he's even clenched down harder. You know what I mean? It was just yeah.
Wow. So you can come to an understanding without them having to believe what you believe, right? So they can still have their beliefs and just go, this is a point that I need to not cross because we've agreed together that this is how this relationship is going to be, because both of you get to decide the terms of that relationship. So while that's amazing, that's what that. I mean, the response that I'm thinking of is one where they would never listen in the first place, because even if that's the case, you still have the right to go, you know, whether or not we're going to have this relationship has everything to do with whether or not we're able to agree on the relationship we're going to have.
Yeah. I think just to loop back to... Sorry. Just to loop back to your daughter real quick, it's, I think, kind of building off of what Eric said about if you, this other person who was trying not to cry in front of their kids, crying can be a very useful thing to exhibit to your children, you know, in order to make sure that they know it's okay to do too. Same with questioning. Same with asking hard questions. You said you just found out how to do that, right? You just found out like, oh, I can go up to my pastor and ask him hard questions because that authority is imaginary and I don't have to respect that. If you build that into your daughter, regardless of what else, you know, doctrinally or theologically conversations are had, like if she knows that she can just ask the questions that she has, and kids ask really good questions, like if she goes up to grandma or grandpa and asks a really hard question and is told you don't get to ask that, if she comes back she's like, they don't want me asking questions, dad says I can ask I like the fact that I get to ask questions. That increases your credibility for her, because she's going to be able to sense who's open to conversation and being questioned and being challenged and who isn't. So mirroring the asking of questions and encouraging that in her by itself is going to be huge.
And saying I don't know. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. You're right. Yeah. I
thank you guys. I really appreciate that, because I just needed a direction. And Eric, I think I'm going to do that. I'm gonna get some therapy and talk about things, and maybe that'll set a foundation with how to navigate through the rest of it. So yeah.
I so wish we lived in a universe where there was a quick answer, especially because you're dealing with this right now. But also your kids are young. You're going to be dealing with this right now for a long time, you know. So taking the time to do it right means that it can make it a lot easier down the road.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll just order a copy of the Book of Eric, I think it is. And,
oh, no, I would not. I would not recommend that, my friend. Hey, it was good talking to you, man.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks
I appreciate you guys so much. And I know you guys hear this a lot, but you guys have totally, just watching your guys' show has totally rewired my way of thinking and my quality of life and the things I'm able to navigate. It's made it so much easier to navigate through this world now through a logical and a skeptical pair of eyes. And I thank you guys for that.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Well, that was, okay, Randy. That gave me feels.
I know.
I'm going to rewatch that a couple times this week if I'm feeling, yeah.
I want to talk to Moldred.
Do you?
I really, 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 really do. But first, we should thank the patrons.
We should. Moldred, I pulled you up, but I'm going to pop you back in the queue so we can thank patrons real quick, okay?
We will be right with you.
Okay, sure. All right. I can wait.
Okay, popping Moldred back in the queue. Good call on thanking the patrons. All right. If you like what we do, you want to support it, we've got religious callers now, and I want to work through those calls. I love it. I love the fact that they've all called in. Guys, if you want us to have longer conversations with you, call at the beginning of the show. Call before the show starts, please.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like a lot of the time, we will have to extend calls at the beginning because we don't have a lot in the queue. So if you want to be one of those people who get a longer conversation with us, call early because we're going to have more room to talk with you.
And then every time at the end of the show, we've got a dozen people and we can't get to them.
Unless it's not coincidence and you guys are scared to have longer conversations with us.
You know what? Maybe. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's thank our top 5 patrons. I want to thank Jay Friedman, Kamal, Ribbow, the great North American Dingaloo, and Ward Nippling. Thank you. It's your patronage, and everyone else, thank you. Thank you for your support. It means that we can keep doing this and keep being able to platform people who are doing good work and have these conversations, which I think are incredibly useful and needed.
Yeah.
So thank you. That said, you ready to move in?
Yeah, let's talk with Moldred.
All right. Moldred in New York. You're live with Eric in V.
Yeah, quick comment. If you want the best Star Trek series, watch Deep Space Nine. It's all about religion and some things that might be of interest to you. Now, would you rather talk about pantheism or Scientology?
That's fair. I just had two people I very much care about, V and genetically modified skeptic Drew McCoy. Both of them put on an episode and pointed at Neelix and said, "Hey, Eric, you're like Neelix." And so I was like, okay, now I got to watch this show.
But yes, Deep Space Nine is officially one of the best. Like, it ties Next Gen as like first pick. Yeah. I love that we're starting with Voyager because Voyager is my favorite. But yeah, sure. Check out DS9. A lot of my friends absolutely love it. I think it's the best.
Anyway.
All right.
What do you want to talk about?
Oh, your choice, Scientology or pantheism.
Oh, wow.
It says here you believe that everything is traceable to the Big Bang and that you call the Big Bang God. And that's something I'm interested in. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, okay, we can talk about that. But yeah, because you could call it God. And I usually comment to people, when they talk about Abrahamic religions and how they talk to God. I tell them, well, I see God every day. I smell God every day. I taste God every day.
Oh,
God every day. Because God is everything that ever was, everything that is now, and everything that ever will be. And
okay, so why call anything God? What use is it to call the Big Bang God or the universe God? Or
yeah, I'm sitting next to God. I'm talking into a God. You're listening through God. It sounds entirely pointless.
Not really. If you point it out to Abrahamic theists.
Well, that's an argument that you can.
I use it when people talk about this. They're communicating with Jesus Christ or Yahweh or something like that, but they don't hear him, they don't see him, they don't. They think they maybe feel him. I mean,
are you saying they're just talking to themselves?
It's more likely coming from you. So basically, my mind, my brain is part of the pantheist God. And I use the idea of a pantheist God as a comment, as a alternate viewpoint to theists that say there's a God. He's over there someplace. He's in the clouds. He's somewhere else.
But here's my question for you.
That's the use I get. That is the use I get from pantheism.
Okay, cool. So here it sounds like you're using pantheism and this idea that you are connected to God and God is the Big Bang and all of that as a linguistic ploy to get Abrahamic theists baffled and to have conversations with them. But that doesn't sound like you actually believe this stuff. Do you believe things just to spite Abrahamic religions, or do you actually have this as a actually held conviction with evidence you can bring to us? Because I agree that if you're talking with a Christian or a Muslim or a religious Jewish person and you say, hey, this mug is God, and we can call anything God, and God is just a word that we can apply to random things. So why is your God more important or more impressive than my God? Sure, we can have that conversation, but that doesn't mean I actually believe that this mug is God. Are you saying you actually do believe that your brain and your mind is God and connected to God, which is the universe and the Big Bang and all of that?
No, it's...
So it sounds like you're a sarcastic atheist.
Yeah, I was ordained a Arisian pope.
It's you again.
Back in the 1980s, and what I'm doing is practicing Discordianism.
Moldred.
Which is...
Hey, Moldred.
Go ahead.
No worries. I think there might be a delay, but this is a show that we're having a back and forth on, and I know it's tough to kind of to make those quick, but I'm doing my best to lead this here.
Okay,
So
yeah, I'll let you
Satanists,
talk then. Go ahead. Tell me when you finish.
yeah, there are a lot of Satanists who are just very, very sarcastic atheists. So we're Pastafarians. Are you in the same group?
No, I'm an Aristian Discordian.
So I'm saying, are you in the same group of non-believers who are picking up a funky, funny religion?
In order to...
Because if that's the case,
troll.
Cool, but I also am not super interested in those conversations because this show is made for people who actually believe things that are supernatural to call in and talk about what they believe and why, or other atheists who are calling in saying, hey, you know, here's some things that are going on in my life.
Unless you don't subscribe to the correspondence theory of truth and you think that just because something is practical, it is therefore true, in which case we can have that conversation, but that's a whole different ballgame.
In fact, Moldred, I think you're the guy who even
you sent
mailed us that book, right?
Yeah, the Principia Discordia.
Yeah, you seem like a really, really funny dude. I just don't know if this is the platform, because this is not the platform for people to talk about religions that are goofy for goofy sake. Yeah. That's just not what Talk Heathen is.
Well, there's more to it than if you take fun as simply fun and earnestness and earnest, it shows how less you both of them discernest is pure. Wait a minute.
Okay. Moldred?
Heinz Grooks. You ever read Heinz Grooks?
No, this is a call-in show, dude. Not the platform for it. But thank you for calling in. Thank you for the book.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. And that truck that said GOD on the side, remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks. See, here's the thing. I'm so I want more pantheists to call in. I want pagans to call in. I want people who are not necessarily Christians to call in the show and defend what they believe, because I've had conversations with these people.
Sure.
And I want to know, just as much as I want to know, is there an Abrahamic God? I want to know, is there another pantheon that I should be paying attention to? But when you call in and you're like pulling our leg with some pragmatic semantic stuff, like, cool, if that works for you, that's awesome. And I'm sure that it's a fun thing to delve into, but we gotta engage honestly here. And
I mean, you can honestly be having fun. That doesn't mean that you're honestly talking about a supernatural belief that you're holding.
Right.
So we've got to make room for those people. That said, let's talk to Mike in Colorado. Mike,
good.
You're live with Eric and V.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you as well. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I'm a long-time listener. I thought I'd talk about my journey to convert to Judaism.
If you can put that in a nutshell as a way that we can discuss it and talk to you about it in this format, awesome. If it's story time, probably not the right format for that. So why do you want, let's see if we can convert this into a conversation. You're converting into to Judaism, correct?
Correct. It's,
are you a believer?
In a way, sometimes depends on the day. I'm an agnostic, 100%, first and foremost. I think 100% truth is really hard to come by and even harder to imagine, or vice versa. And I don't think that Judaism's God exists in the sense that you and I exist, but I am an admirer and a long time admirer of the culture, the history, the poetry of the Old Testament itself.
So, I was actually reading this morning, and I know it's a fact that I'd learned a long time ago, that there are a lot of Christian weddings in Japan, like way more Christian weddings than there are Christians. That the traditional kind of Shinto weddings are not being chosen because the Christian weddings are ones that are more fun, or what people want to have, even though they don't follow that belief. Are you converting to Judaism in the same way that I celebrate Christians and that Japanese couples get Christian weddings even though they're not believers? Like, is it just the culture that's attracting you?
No, I am enrolled in a course called Intro to Judaism. I was introduced to it by a friend of mine from the Secular Hub in Denver, which is just kind of a hangout for atheists, agnostics, Freedom from Religion Foundation, other organizations to hold their meetups and stuff. And so I talked to her and I said, you're a cultural Jew, but you're also an atheist. And I was wondering, do you have a rabbi or do you know someone who's a good rabbi? And she said, yes. Are you converting to Judaism because you believe in God now? And I'm like, no, not really. It's just the culture attracts me. The people attract me. The food.
That's what I just asked.
Songs. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, I think of the Abrahamic religions, I mean, Christianity is cultural to an extent, but you call yourself a Christian if you believe in the God. Whereas I feel like Judaism does straddle that line a little bit better of being both a religion and an actual culture that is separate from it. Of course, still influenced by it greatly. But I think you can, I don't necessarily see a problem with this as long as you're not going to make excuses for, bad decisions made in religion's name. Then if you want to appreciate a culture and that culture is willing to open up to you and accept you, then okay.
Yeah, if you like getting plastered during the high holidays and love challah, go for it, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Stuff is
yet, but I would love to.
It is so good. It is so good. On the Manischewitz. Manischewitz is terrible. It is truly atrocious, but most other things are fantastic.
The thing, though, for me, the only thing I would be concerned about myself, and I can't speak for you, Mike, clearly, because I don't know who you are and your connection to this, but there is this very weird, fetishization of Judaism in America specifically, and a lot of that does go hand in hand with Christianity. So if you're not a Christian, then this probably doesn't apply to you, but I would feel remiss to not bring this up, that there is, I grew up in my not my immediate family, but my extended family was very into Messianic Judaism, and so they were the whole John Kahn congregation, and they would do Passover and they would do all of these things, but only pick and choose, and it was authentic Christianity, tourism type stuff that was really uncomfortable. So as long as you're actively hey, this is something that I want to be a part of, and I'm going to do everything with respect and respect the people I'm entering into this agreement with, I don't see a problem with that. I have no problems.
Good call on the fetishization. Usually my example is when people move to Eastern religions because they're foreign and mystical, but you're right.
No, there is a rampant fetishization with being the real Jews.
Yeah.
Which means we don't actually have to do anything we don't want to do.
By fetishization, you don't mean sexualized. You mean they're just kind of held up as this is what Jews are like, and
it's not necessarily sexual. It's just an unhealthy fascination that objectifies a thing rather than seeks to actually understand it. So if you're taking courses and you're talking with people who are Jewish and they are giving you their opinions and you want to go see it, that's probably not you. You're probably fine. But there is a tendency to look at another culture and fetishize it to the extent that you are simplifying and being reductionist about it to the point where it's becoming a consumable thing for you as opposed to a thing that exists outside of yourself in a full historical context.
The appropriation of wasps for Kabbalah.
It does tie very deeply into appropriation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. An interesting movie is Kumare. That goes into. Kumare. Have you seen Kumare?
Kumare, it was a great movie. I loved it. I cried. It was so good.
Isn't it? But the idea, you have all of these people who are just oh no, this is super. It's super magic. They don't have a clear understanding that this is just another country's religion, but the idea that there's just this super special it's
Yeah, and again, we're not saying that's you, but for the benefit of our audience, I personally have no problems with anybody becoming a cultural anything, as long as you're being vigilant about what you believe and why. Cool, go for it. Don't hurt anybody. We're golden. But when it comes to moving into other cultural realms, like that's when it kind of becomes a thing that you have to just, keep an eye on, keep an eye on yourself and your motivations. But I think you're good, Mike.
Definitely.
I definitely took a healthy dose of advice from both of your shows in the past, where you talk about, taking steps like that, recovering, replacing or healing old harmful beliefs, like my Mormon beliefs I was raised in, and kind of replacing them with, this is what liberal, this is what today's Jews, this is what unorthodox Jews are talking about. In regards to any of these things.
Yeah. Education is always going to be good. Like more education about a topic is never going to hurt you. It's always going to make you more informed and give you better tools to make a decision with.
Absolutely.
So I like that you're approaching this. It sounds responsibly, and as long as you continue to be a skeptic, be a Jewish skeptic. That's totally fine too.
I know. I will never kvetch. No, I don't know what that means yet.
Take care, brother.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Shalom.
You know what that makes me think of? Kids in the 80s and 90s on the schoolyard saying, "I know Kung Fu." Like if you're in that age group and you're watching and you were a kid on the schoolyard and that one kid says, "I know Kung Fu," you probably have a good idea of what that whole fetishization thing is. And that's just a really good point. I think I'd love to talk about that at another.
Ooh, maybe we could do a Murphy's Law episode about it.
Maybe we could. I'd like to do that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I like that a lot. Let's go on because we've got a few more callers and we want to try and get through and talk to them. Doug in Arizona, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, Eric and V, how are you doing?
Doing good.
well.
How can we help you today?
Well, as I told the call screener, so I'm more agnostic than atheist. But real quick backstory, I was raised in a very religious home, Baptist, conservative Baptist.
Sure.
I eventually went to seminary, so a lot like Matt Dillahunty, I decided I was going to go into the ministry, that's what God had called me to do. Sorry if my voice is shaky. It's a little emotional for me.
Okay.
That's all right.
I mean, I don't want to come off as a jerk. We do have two more callers after you and about 10 minutes to give to everybody all together. So I do want to get through and let you talk, but I also want to make sure that we're saving time for the conversation that you want to have.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, pretty quickly then, about 15 years ago, so after I got married, we raised our kids mostly in the church, but about 15 years ago, through a lot of hard decision making, I decided to leave the church. And long story short, didn't really come out to my family for quite some time, but eventually, couldn't help it. But lately, my mom, who is 85 years old, lost my dad 2.5 years ago. My mom has been more and more laying the guilt trip on me that I've disappointed them and all that kind of stuff that I know the truth and I know God and I know I'm going to have to face God and I'm being rebellious, and it's just really hard for her to deal with the fact that I'm leading my family in the wrong direction. And like I said, it's very emotional, and I'm just having so much trouble dealing with coming across in a loving way, because for me, family is like the most important thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm having a hard time expressing how we can have different opinions and, it still be okay.
Well, it seems like it's a point that is really, really crappy to hammer home every single time because it really sucks. And that is that your mom, there is a chance that your mom just will not accept it. I'm not saying that is the case, but that is a possibility.
Yeah.
And because of that, let's make sure that the goals that you're setting aren't ones that are outside of your control. Because if you set goals that are outside of your control, you're dooming yourself to failure here. So what is in Doug's sphere of control? Well, what's in your sphere of control is how you interact with your mom. You can communicate with her and tell her how you would like to interact with her. You can talk about how what she's been doing has been making you feel. And you can also say, because it's been making me feel this way, because it's had this impact, I would like to have a relationship that is X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And if she says, I can't do that, that's her prerogative. That's something that she has to own. Yeah. It's not your fault, because if you do make it your fault, then just imagine a situation where you're watching a boyfriend beating up their partner, saying, why do you make me hit you? When you disbehave, I just have to, and it hurts me so much more than it hurts you. And you're just, giving them a black eye. That sucks. You got to own your own hurtful actions. If you have a family member, somebody who insists on only being hurtful, you can't own that for them. You can't get the black eye and then say it was my fault.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that. And it's the hard part is that we talk pretty much every week. And like my sister, we very early on agreed, hey, we'll not talk about religion, and it almost never comes up. We talk about all kinds of other stuff, and we're fine. And my brothers, I don't really talk to them a whole lot, so that's not an issue. But my mom, I've always been very, very close to my mom, and it's killing me that she's now, and I know she feels like she's coming to the end of her life, and I'm pretty sure she's thinking my son's going to go to hell and I'm going to die and never know that he's right with God. And it's one of the few things in life I'm emotional about.
You are cursed with an amazing amount of empathy.
Yeah. My grandmother is the same way. I get messages from her. I actually haven't gotten one recently after I sent that last email that I told you about. Yeah. But she would send me pretty regularly, not every week, but fairly regularly, messages that would convey the same kind of thing. I'm worried about your soul. I don't want to imagine you in hell. I want you to be together with everybody else in the family when we all die and, go up to heaven. Like, I'm worried about you. And so I've had to deal with that as well. And the way that I ended up dealing with it, and I haven't had a message from her like this since. So I don't know if it actually helped or if she just hasn't gotten around to sending the next one yet. But I would say, you know what? You believe that your God is good and just. And right now what I am doing is I am following the brain that you believe that God gave me in as honest and as earnest a way as possible. And I'm looking for things and I'm asking questions and I'm being honest in my disbelief right now. I'm not pretending to believe. I'm not pretending so I get a reward. I am being very, very honest right now. And if your God is good and if your God values honesty, then you have to trust that your God will see me as a good person. Because otherwise, wouldn't that be an unjust thing to do to somebody who was honestly seeking? So that might not work, but it might be a way to bridge that gap. Because if she believes that her God is just and values honesty, and you frame your disbelief as an honest stance that you are taking with the brain that she believes God gave you, it's really hard for her to then either say, I don't believe you, the son that I love, or I don't believe that God is just. If she takes those two things as true, that's the only conclusion she can come to. And it's not going to deconvert her, and it's not going to stop her from worrying, but it'll at least convey to her, I get where you're coming from. This is going to be my line now. This is my line. When you bring something up, this is what I say back.
That is a really,
And I think I understand that I'm never going to change her mind, or probably anybody else in my family, but that, what you just said, V, really like makes me think, hey, I mean, that's the approach that I have to take for my own sanity.
Good. Yeah, it is a process of honestly asking questions, right? And if God wants you to honestly believe, then you're doing the right thing. And she has to trust that God is going to acknowledge that.
Right. And I want to let you guys get to the other callers. So thank you so much for the time you've taken to encourage me. I appreciate it a lot.
Of course. It's a rough spot to be in, and you're certainly not alone. I know that if you went to the Discord, like, you'd have so many people who are in the same position.
Yeah, you're getting love in the live chat already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for calling in.
And I really appreciate it.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
You guys have a great.
Oh, I dropped it too quick. You too, man.
You too.
All right, we've got a few more minutes, and Jason has been waiting for a while. Jason, I'm sorry we don't have a whole lot of time, but I do want to get the chance to talk to you. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, I'm an agnostic, and I struggle with the question when a Christian comes to me and says, well, what other excuses is there for the 12 disciples that risked their lives, and some of them died horrible deaths, for their faith, and why would they do that unless they saw Jesus rise again the next day? And to me, I don't really have a good answer for that, and I was wondering your guys' opinion on that.
So there's the snarky answer, which I've seen on plenty of Facebook threads, which is that makes them exactly like the 9/11 bombers who truly believed and acted on that truly held conviction in killing themselves so that they can do, you know what I mean? But I think that there are probably other examples that won't cause people to have such a viscerally, backfire reaction. And that is that you can honestly hold a belief and be wrong about it.
But there's another part to this that I think that either the people telling you this, that are giving you this answer to your questions, don't know, or are hoping you don't know, which is that we have very little evidence of how the 12 disciples, if they all existed, died, and whether or not their belief in the resurrected Christ factored into it, and how, there has been a mythology built up after the fact, in terms of, this is how Thomas died. He went to India and they killed him there. And then this is how Peter died, and he was, crucified upside down because he didn't want to die like Christ. And all of these things, we've built these mythologies, but these are not biblical. These are not things that are in the Bible. So even if people who are Christians who believe the Bible say these things, they are using sources that they themselves have rejected as being non-canonical. So yes, Eric's point, and also even saying that grants them so much ground that you do not need to be granting.
Fair.
I would definitely recommend checking out Pauligia's channel, Pauligia, I think. Ogia?
Ogia.
Pauligia, yes. Pauligia does an entire series on this exact question and addresses all of the biggest objections by apologists. So that's where I learned the majority of my information from on this topic. And it's fascinating exactly how much we don't know and assume we do. So I'd say, people can die for honestly held beliefs all the time. It doesn't mean that the thing is true. Also, don't grant them the fact that all the 12 disciples did die for Jesus. That's not backed up. That's not something they'd be able to actually stand by if they did the research. So check out Pauligia and call us back if you have other questions.
Okay. Thanks for your help.
Thank you.
For sure. Thanks, Jason.
Nice.
I love
You're
it when I
right.
get to plug some people. I've got a couple faves that I just like hammer home.
Well, I do know that one of my new faves is How to Skeptic. This androgynous cat cyborg does the show about how to do research. It's been a lot of fun. You should check it out.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I hear they're doing a collaboration with Objectively Dan on conspiracy theories too.
Ooh.
Yeah. There's also this show called, we referenced it earlier, Murphy's Law. And that's actually tied fairly tightly into the Talk Heathen concept because the hosts of that show actually get together and talk about previous callers.
Yeah. I heard one of them was an asshole, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, only on Mondays.
Alrighty. So the thing is we've been trying to cut down to 2:45 because we want to hop into the Discord and say hi to people and interact. We've been pushing a lot of people toward the Discord.
Yeah.
And it's not just Discord. There is a fan channel. Or not a fan channel, a fan Facebook group.
Yes.
Thank you. The Talk Heathen fan group, by fans, for fans. I love it. They are incredibly kind. There are a ton of content creators who are just in there. They support the ACA, but they also support us in ways that we wouldn't feel comfortable doing it on official ACA channels. It's just nice. And it's a really fun group, and I like to lurk in there and post occasionally. And
there's some good conversations happening too. They post prompts that get a lot of conversation going, which I love. So yeah, check out Facebook, check out Discord, check out Patreon. Yeah, we're all over the place.
Definitely. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
This episode went really, really quick.
Yeah, we picked up.
It did.
I'm happy with the calls we had today. We had some amazing callers.
We did. All right, let's throw up some love rings. 1, 2, 3. So I don't care if it's beating a dead horse, whether you believe or not. It seems like we're going to be in this for a really long time. We've been in this, and I'm talking about COVID. Be safe for those of you who cannot stay at home because they're busy keeping us safe. They're busy working in hospitals. Heck, my little sister who's about to have a baby, my niece, my first niece, is a hospital nurse.
Yeah.
You know, and I worry about her safety. She's finally now being taken off of schedule because
good.
Yeah,
that's a good thing to do right before you have a baby.
Right?
Yeah. No, my cousin's a nurse. She was down in she's up in New York during the first big wave up there. So she has just been running off her feet.
And I mean, these are real heroes, you know, people who are stocking grocery shelves, you know,
or taking their lives in their hands literally to go protest. Portland's been protesting for Black Lives Matter for almost, if not over 100 days now.
My goodness.
Every single night. Every night. I'm so proud of that city and all the cities around who have continued to do that. So whether you're stocking grocery shelves or standing in the street or taking care of people in an emergency room, we see you.
Yeah. Damn, you're right. And standing up for the rights of others.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Whether you believe or not, thank you. For those of you who don't believe, damn right, this is your community. We're hopping into the Discord so we can go and say hi. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. This is your community, and we're glad you made it. But to those of you who do believe, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. See you next week.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.
Yes, thank you. Wait, Are we out? We're not out, are we? Are we out?
I have no idea. I can't hear a thing.
Okay, well, I'm just going to go as if we're not out. Look, we love our crew. We love our crew. None of this would happen without them. Thank you, crew. Can we go to the crew cam?
Yes.
We love you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, crew cat. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone. Puck, welcome to the team, brother. Oh, good. We're not out. Yes.
Okay.
Oh my!
That was that heavy.
Crew,
Love you guys.
We love you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. All right.